All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Good morning, and today is Friday, December the 2nd. The roll call starts with Judge Christopher Kraft.
Present.
Judge Klein Lauterbach.
Present.
Judge John Hudson.
Present.
Judge Hugh Harvey.
Present.
Linda Byford.
Present.
Stancil Ford.
Present.
And David Nemo.
Present.
All accounted for. Thank you.
All right, well, there's only three of us actually present. The others are on conference call. According to TCA 844-108B2, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, the governing body must file such determination of necessity, including the recitation of the facts and circumstances on which it was based, with the Office of Secretary of State no later than 2 working days after the meeting. Furthermore, TCA 844-108A3 defines necessity as matters to be considered by the governing body at that meeting require timely action by the body. The physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Tennessee Private Probation Services Council. The purpose of today's meeting, with some members attending by teleconference, is to discuss the agenda as noticed on the website earlier. So we have a quorum. Has there been notice of the meeting?
Thank you, Your Honor. The next thing is if we could adopt the agenda, please.
Well, I mean, has the notice of the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has. It was put on the website on November the 23rd.
All right. Everyone received a copy of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt. Hello, Mr. Chairman. I'll second it. Judge Lauterbach.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Judge Christopher Kraft.
Aye.
Judge Klein Lauterbach.
Aye.
Judge John Hudson.
Aye.
Judge Hugh Harvey.
Aye.
Linda Byford.
Aye.
Stancil Ford.
Aye.
David Nemo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Agenda is adopted. You've also received a copy of the minutes from the September 2nd meeting. I have one issue with the minutes in that I don't know if it's a grammatical error, but on page 2 of the minutes, second paragraph, it says, a respondent further state that complainant has been sentenced. This is the third line from the end of the second paragraph. I think that should read, the respondent further stated, rather than a respondent further state. Just wanted to point out that change. Do I hear a motion to adopt or amend the minutes?
I move that we adopt the minutes once they've been adapted to reflect that grammatical correction you pointed out.
Second by Mr. Nemo. Any other discussion?
Don't forget to say your name.
So this is Judge Lauterbach who made the motion.
Any other discussion? All right, let's call the roll on the vote, please.
Judge Christopher Kraft.
Aye.
Judge Klein Lauterbach.
Aye.
Judge John Hudson.
Aye.
Judge Hugh Harvey.
Aye.
Linda Byford.
Aye.
Stancil Ford.
Aye.
And David Nemo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Legal report?
Thank you. We only have one case today. I wanted to make sure that I was properly introduced to everyone, and so.
Judge Kraft, if I could.
Yes, sir. If you'd introduce yourself, please. First.
Yes, sir. My name is Mark Green. I'm Chief Counsel, Chief Counsel for the Department of Commerce and Insurance Division Regulatory Boards. My counterpart, Co-Chief Counsel Tony Glandorf, is the supervising attorney responsible for this commission. However, he is out of the office today on National Guard duty, so he asked me if I would come down and introduce Ms. Sherelle Hooper, who is now the legal counsel, the board attorney for this commission. And Ms. Hooper has been with our office for several months now and has practiced law for several years, coming from the public defender's office in
The Legal Aid Society.
Legal Aid Society,
Middle
okay.
Tennessee.
And what county?
Covered Sumner, Macon, Smith, Wilson, and Trousdale counties.
She has extensive legal experience, and I think will be a very Tony and I are very comfortable with her being able to serve the commission here very well. You will also be working with two other attorneys who are not present before you today that will be doing any litigation of any cases that might administratively need handled and such. Their names are Pamela Spicer and Allison Ratton. Both of those ladies will be working with Sherelle, who will be serving as your board attorney, but they will be handling any litigation cases that the commission might have of any cases that need to go forward in that manner. So if you have any questions, I'll be here. I'm just going to be here briefly, but if you need any further assistance from Tony or me, please let Roxana or Sherelle know, and we'll be happy to address anything that you might have.
So we have one case on December's legal report, and this report is from Ms. Ratton. She couldn't be here this morning. This case is number 20160555961. You have the legal report before you. Essentially, we received a complaint about a probation officer who was allegedly abusing her authority in a sense. However, we discovered upon investigation that she is not within our jurisdiction to regulate. She's employed by the Tennessee Department of Corrections. So at this point, we are recommending closure of this complaint by the board today.
Any questions of Counselor?
I move we adopt the recommendation, Judge Lauterbach.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Stansel forward.
Any discussion? Let's take a roll call on the vote, please.
Thank you. Judge Christopher Kraft,
Aye.
Judge Klein Lauterbach,
Aye.
Judge John Hudson,
Aye.
Judge Hugh Harvey,
Aye.
Linda Byford, Stansel Ford,
Aye.
and David Nemo.
Aye.
All approved.
All right, recommendations adopted. Budget report.
Thank you. We emailed all the documents to everyone, so hopefully you have in front of you both a what's considered the director's report and then the annual closing of the fiscal forms. Those that are here on page 4, I will start. The finance team has decided to kind of list our expenses a little bit differently. And so you're seeing the way we're going to be presenting them each month. The good side to this presentation is that you kind of have an idea of what the cost backs are going to be on a monthly basis. And so on the first part of the numbers for July, August, and September, all the way through October, you can see our expenses at the revenues at the top, bringing us at $28,346 for the months that have taken place so far in this fiscal year. So that is our revenues, and below it are the expenses. And again, the good thing with many of those lines are their cost backs based on the licensing pool and complaints and so forth. So they're about as close as our cost backs can get, and that brings us at $11,327 for expenses. So again, ongoing for the year, you're already seeing for the fiscal year that we're down, or that we've got an additional $17,000. So that's a good thing. And then down at the bottom, what we're hoping to do is show some historical trends. So the numbers you're seeing at the bottom reflect the previous year to date. So you've got some revenues for 2016, but that would be the fiscal, prior year, as opposed to at the top we're talking about the calendar year. So it's a little bit confusing, but as this form of showing the numbers takes place, I think we'll have some more historical data below, and then that's kind of what that look will be like, and we can address it if, I think with this particular program that has ongoing renewals, we should see each month look decent. Some programs renew once a year, and you can, look like you don't have enough revenue at that moment in time. But this is looking like we're doing very well for the program. The next page would be the regulatory board's full account for years, and we've closed the 2015-2016 fiscal year, ending at the bottom, very, very bottom, with a reserve of $654,973. And so I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw those final numbers, and there you've got 4 years in a row. So This, of course, just to add, and everyone's aware of the rule change, reducing the fee from the $1 to the 75 cents. I'll take advantage, since I'm touching on it now, to let everyone know I ran numbers early this morning. We have 36 active companies right now. And so my plan is to send a letter, and Sherelle's going to help me draft it, to all of the companies involved, making sure that they're well aware of the reduction in the fee. I don't want to see us overcharge anyone. And so I think that'll go out well. If for some reason any of them should come back or we have a concern, I'm going to make phone calls even just to make sure everybody's on board and is well aware of the reduction. So, absolutely.
Many years ago, we first adopted this, we had a deficit of over $100,000, and we used that dollar to try to make that up, and it looks like we've done very well.
Very well, absolutely. And I think everyone will be really pleased. We had two companies so far that made the mistake and only paid at the 75 cents versus the dollar. You know, the rule went in with that November 10th date, effective November 20th. It was confusing even to us. We had to sit down and recap. But this last quarter obviously was for the time period ending at the end of October. So those that short paid it, it was nickel and dime, so we're not worried about it. But we've pretty much gotten everybody through the end of October in. So the website now reflects the form, in case any of you have contacts with companies. It's really important that those that have held on to paper in their drawers toss the old form that says that they're to pay at $1. So the new form is available online. It reflects the oncoming 27 quarters correctly. And then again, I think that letter will hopefully be that last finishing touch to make sure no one has it wrong. And that is all that I have as far as the numbers. You also have all received the meeting plan dates for 2017. I think in the past we've put a lot more meetings possibly on the calendar just in case. No, we've always done the 4?
Every 3 months.
Perfect.
Except they're about 1 month off. They're a little earlier, which we kind of like.
Okay. Okay. So Dennis and I worked real hard, and he had all the historical information. We've set the dates to what you've got in front of you. We've posted them on the website, I believe, simply so that the room wouldn't be taken. If anyone, or if we have several people with problems on these dates, definitely send me an email, a call. We'll be happy to review them. But these are the tentative dates then that we've got for 2017, and hopefully it gives everyone time to put their calendars. I'm going to definitely make it a priority to send out 2 week ahead of these meetings, about a 2-week reminder for everyone to get a feel for who's able to come in and who's going to be on the phone conference. But those are our 2017 dates. I will need a motion to approve those, if that's okay.
And basically what we're doing, I think we were in March, June, September, and December, and a lot of people didn't really want to have December meetings because there's so many other meetings in December. And these are the first Fridays of those months. Anyone wish to make a motion to adopt these dates?
Motion to adopt, David Nemo.
Second that, Judge Lauterbach.
Any discussion? Roll call on the vote, please.
Thank you. Judge Christopher Kraft?
Aye.
Judge Klein Lauterbach?
Aye.
Judge John Hudson?
Aye.
Judge Hugh Harvey?
Aye.
Linda Byford?
Aye.
Stansel Ford?
Aye.
And David Nemo.
Aye.
Thank you. All are approved.
Motion carries.
Thank
Could
you.
you give me those dates again?
Absolutely. The first meeting, or the next one we will have, is Friday, February the 3rd. The one after that is May 5th, August 4th, and November the 3rd.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Board, basically it's the first Friday of February, May, August, and November, every 3 months. So.
Next on documents again that were handed out, and it's on page 7 of your iPads, and I'll let Sherelle kind of explain this. This came to us as a request of possible consideration to add some definitions and some terms. So you've got in front of you Chapter 1177-02, Rules of Professional Conduct. I'll make sure everyone has it in front of them for review, and I'll turn it over to Sherelle for any other explanation.
Thank you, Roxana. So we received a chair from Vice Chair of the House Government Operations Committee, John Reagan, to take a look at 1177-02-.04, number 8, sections A and B. particularly, he wanted on the agenda today for the board to discuss possibly further defining the terms in sections A and B, or adding additional clarity to those sections. And so we wanted to make sure that this was before the board today, and now I'll leave it up to you all to discuss.
All right, what is the reg number again, please?
1177-02-.04, 8A and B.
04 on what we were emailed would be page 3.
Correct.
And numbers, number 8, starting all employees, owners, or agents, A and B. A is engaging abusive, aggressive, hostile, or disrespectful conduct towards probationers or members of the court. And B is engaging in fraudulent or misleading behavior. They're wanting further definitions of those words.
We wanted the board to take a look at it and determine whether that's something that should happen, and if so, to what extent.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what is requested. My suggestion would be that these were just adopted as of a week ago. I mean, in effect, is that could we refer this to the Attorney General to look at it and see if they think that, or what definitions there would be?
I think we could consult with the Attorney General's office on this and put it on the agenda for the.
We first adopted these regulations years ago. Well, we had a problem for a couple of years because lawyers are on this committee, and they would take our recommendations, and then we'd come meet, and they would be completely changed by the Attorney General because they didn't realize that we were judges and lawyers. A lot of us were, and they made some recommendations which we ended up adopting. But rather than our trying to do this now, my suggestion would be that we ask them to take a look at it. And if they feel that there's other case law or further definitions needed that we might need to enact, then they could send that to us to help us with our deliberations.
So it sounds like what they want is more detail on what disrespectful conduct might mean, or.
This is Judge Lauterbach.
Yeah, this is Judge Lauterbach. And those are pretty open-ended things. I guess these are going to be bases of complaints against people because somebody was disrespectful. That's a pretty open-ended. You have an awful lot. You could end up with an awful lot of hearings if somebody starts being accused of disrespectful conduct.
Let's say, for instance, that someone accuses a counselor with a private probation company of sexual harassment or something like that. Then we would have to decide whether or not it met these words. Is that hostile conduct or disrespectful conduct? And so it may be that the legislature just wants further clarification of what might be included in that. And it might be the Attorney General's office could say, as examples, and then list certain examples or certain meanings of the words. But they could contact the legislator involved and try to figure out exactly what they think might need clarity, and that might. Or anyone else have an idea of what we should do, or any other suggestions?
I'm okay with your suggestion, given that we don't really know what he's asking about specifically.
I think the request, the way that Sherrill has it, because from the way it was given to us, I think that was their concern. Is the commission or the council comfortable with adding, just leaving it as is, or adding more terms? And it sounds like, we can say at this point at least it was drafted this way because you thought enough was in it, and then the Attorney General can guide us if they feel the same way.
They suggested this code in a way.
Okay.
a couple of years ago that we adopt that, and so we worked with this and made a few changes in it. But since they suggested this, they probably have some, and it's analogous to what other companies have adopted as a professional code of conduct. And I think if they would make recommendations for us, it might be something we could look, and if we could be sent them before the next meeting, we could then have something to look at before we discuss it. Is there anyone else on the council uncomfortable with deferring this matter till the February meeting? All right. Else? Auditing annual insurance training is on the agenda. Clarify for me what that
I would love to.
is.
Oh, okay, thank you. It took me a minute. So, one of the items for, that the renewal process has to do is look at the training, the annual training that the officers have to go through. I wanted to run and bring up the possibility of, for renewals to be able to go out a little bit smoother and faster. If the council is okay with the individuals providing information on the training that they had and including that, if they renew online, which they're going to be able to, we're going to encourage that and keep giving education for renewing online. But if the council is okay with us auditing those continuing educations, the training pieces, as opposed to holding back the renewal for every single person. Obviously, these are our officers that have to do this and provide it not only for licensing, but maybe other functions of their job as well. And right now, all the renewals are held back to look at every one of those training sessions, as opposed to using and taking advantage of an auditing tool, which would just mean we don't have to look at everyone's. We could pick a random 20 a week or 15 a month, however many accountancy boards and some other boards do that when it comes to the continuing education piece. They don't hold back the renewal, but instead use an auditing method to randomly select folks, and the rest just let everyone be accountable for submitting their information. It's something to think about where we could expedite the process a little bit.
Well, would everyone still be audited or checked?
Not everyone necessarily. If we go to an auditing system, it would be trusting that everyone's putting in the information when they do it and giving us the right information on where they did the training and what they did. So that wouldn't change. But instead of us holding back the renewal and looking at every single one, we would audit and randomly pick a certain number.
So basically, they would still have to submit the information, but it would not hold up the granting of the permit.
Correct. That's exactly the case.
What would happen if we granted the permit and then the information was not forthcoming?
At that point, it would be fraudulent information because they would have had to tell us that they did do it. That's going to be a checkbox if you're doing it in paper, and same thing online. We would open a complaint if they didn't do it and we found it. That would be falsifying or providing incorrect information.
Are you randomly picking companies to audit or randomly picking employees within a particular company?
And this is Judge Lauterbach.
It's just Lauterbach.
I recognize his accent.
That's good, thank you. It would be randomly picking the individuals that have to do this continual training.
So you go through each company, you would do some kind of random check within that company.
Exactly, exactly. And it would be, we don't have to go to this as we are centralizing things and looking at ways to better serve our customers, and in this case, it would be getting their licenses out faster. It's something to consider because other programs are able to do it, and I used accountancy just as an example. If we're okay with that, then we could limit it to, a certain number based on the percentage of what's here. We could also make sure that if they were audited the previous time, we don't audit them again. We could do various methods. We can leave things as they are if the council is more comfortable with looking at every single one. But again, if they're responsible for saying, yes, this is the training and submitting it, and we find otherwise, there's a way to handle that.
This is Chris Kraft. I guess one concern I have is, the last time I was in front of the legislature, they were kind of upset about things that were happening in one of our counties with a private probation company. And I guess it might concern me if someone made an allegation that some company was doing business and wasn't being checked because of their politics or because of who they knew. And I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable with, I mean, if someone did not turn in their information, I would not be comfortable with just letting it go.
Right, and they would have to turn in the information. That if they say that they've done the continuing education and turn it in, it's part of our checklist. It would be considered done, as opposed to now we actually have to open it and check it.
Check it first.
Check it first before it goes out. So the compliance wouldn't go away. It's still in the code that they have to do it. It would be a matter of trusting and letting go out and doing random audits versus holding back all of them. And what we can do is, we can leave it for the council to think about as a possibility down the stream. I mean, we wouldn't have to make any changes now, just something to think about, that the system has the capability, if folks renew online even, to say, yes, I've done my continuing education training as the code states, and move on, and we accept it, and then we work out a process to audit. But we can leave it alone, and in February come back and kind of talk.
This is David Nemo. So currently, each individual is 100% audited, and then the licensee itself is granted. Is that what
That
you're
is
saying?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
If everyone were audited, but they didn't all have to be done before they were given a permit, wouldn't that be the same? Wouldn't that help in a way?
You mean if everyone turned in their information before they were due?
And it was all checked out, but that didn't, if y'all had not checked it out yet, that wouldn't delay their permit. I guess my concern is, like, you're saying, well, this would be random, but you also said just a minute ago, if they'd been audited, we wouldn't audit them the next year. Well, that's not random then. So in other words, they would know, I'm not going to get audited this year because I was audited last year. So I guess the question is there some reason why we should not check everyone at some point every year?
And right now, we check everyone, every time.
But you hold up the permit
Yes.
until it's been checked.
Yes.
So the question is, if everything seems to be in order, could you still issue the permit, but make sure that during that year, their information was checked?
We could. And Cody, if you know it, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe right now the training piece, they don't submit to us until the renewal is up. It doesn't get submitted as they do it. We get it upon the time for the renewal that everyone at that point submits it. So we would, if we opened it up to be submitted throughout the year, it may make it actually a little bit more cumbersome than what the system can handle, because the renewal isn't open yet. So let's say you renew in June. If you did it in February and tried to give us your continuing education, or your training session in February, our system may not have a good method, and that would actually possibly slow it down. And what and folks that are audited would need to know they were audited. So if we audited, David, he wouldn't know we picked him this year versus his next renewal cycle. We could just make sure that different people are audited consistently, I guess is what I was saying. No one would have to know when they're picked. So the thought is that everyone would always have to hopefully be honest and submit the information, but not be held back. But we can leave it completely as is. I just wanted to post it as an idea for the council to consider.
Any other discussion about this? Would you need permission from us not to audit?
No, because right now we're really not auditing. Right now what we're doing is everybody has to have it. So we can leave it alone for now and follow up in February. If the council wants to think about it, maybe discuss it with some of, the other individual officers that know they have to do the continuing education, turn it in, how else they would view it. If there are delays, it is in one of the programs that licenses have to be delayed a lot, but sometimes they do sit until we can get to them all, and so.
That doesn't mean that they have to stop doing business, though.
Not at all.
Right. So
That's the key. Now, if they waited too long and the license had expired, then sometimes we do have the back and forth and the waiting on that piece of it, training.
You said this is John Hudson. You said there are other regulatory boards doing this?
Yes, there are, and I use accountancy because they're obviously very professional organizations, and they have to same thing. You can't work on an expired accountant's license, and so for their licensure, they need continuing education, and they supply the credentials, and the certificates, and all when they renew. And then there's someone on the office that literally randomly has an audit process, that's, so if every 5 that renewed or 10 or every X percentage kicks out, those people being really audited, then it's looked at with every detail. The rest, you've said that you did it and you provided the proof. We just didn't have to open and look at it all. So I can bring back, anything additional that the council may want to look at. We can leave completely alone. This isn't a program that's so large in size, but again, given all the volume, it's just the only thing that jumped out that we could talk about and think about for the future.
Is there any reason why if you started it that way, after a period of time, you couldn't switch back?
None at all, none at all. The statute literally uses the word audit. It says the training is audited, and so we can always go to it. Right now, it's done really always for everybody. So various programs are looking at it as well. When I saw that the language was there and we could do it, it was just something to consider. If it didn't work or we got to a point where we were uncomfortable with auditing 10% or 25%, we can always go back because right now we are doing all of them.
I guess my concern, just speaking as a member, is that right now there are some concerns about private probation companies, and especially in this county and the county that the legislature was talking about. And then we have, people who are basically, they're deciding whether or not somebody's going to go to prison or not, and it's not a big deal. So I just don't know that there's a reason why we should not check everyone right now. Unless for some reason you can show that it's overly burdensome on Commerce and Insurance or anything like that, I'm just not sure that we should lessen the regulation at this point.
And that sounds great. That was really, I wanted to get the feel for.
That's just
our
my
residents.
feel, but I don't know what everyone else feels.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Judge Lauterbach.
David Nemo, I agree as well.
Okay. I think I'm perfectly great with that. It was, as I reviewed different things of the program, it was something that was worth discussing, and I think that's perfectly good. And again, we're doing it, so it sounds like we're in good shape regardless of the statute allowing us to be more flexible. We will stick with it if at a later
And you're looking
point.
out for the taxpayers too, and I
Right,
appreciate that.
right.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Is there any other new business from anyone on the council? All right. With that, do I hear a motion to
I
adjourn?
move we adjourn, Judge Lauterbach.
Second?
Second, stats so forward.
Any discussion? All right, let's just adjourn then.
Thank you very, very, very much for calling in. We are adjourned.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Ooh, that's scary, just thinking about Christmas.